I think we see that the barriers really are awareness.
We're not going in hacking down trees just because we want to produce biomass.
I think for us, the problems would be the additional cost to the client.
There's a renewable heat incentive. It pays you to produce renewable heat.
It's a system that enables us to save money.
It really is a very understandable, workable, modern solution to heating buildings.
It's about the supplier knowing what he's supplying and ensuring it's what the customer needs.
From our point of view, sustainability is a key factor.
So I would say to any customers looking about putting a biomass boiler in is to make early contact with their fuel supplier.
The challenge really is about credibility, demonstrating that we can provide a steady long-term alternative to fossil fuels. That particular point is relevant for both sides of the fence. So you could say that the timber sellers, the woodland owners, need to know there's a long-term future for the biomass sector. It's not a blow in the wind. The biomass market is in its infancy, and as a result of that, of course, we need to build a sort of stable marketplace, both in terms of buying and selling. As part of that, of course, we also need to build the customer credibility.
I think when people first think of Woodfuel, they have this kind of Casey Jones image that there's someone shoveling Woodfuel in with a sweaty bandana on their forehead, and they've got to dash back at the end of the day to get all the bucket loads of ash out. And really that's an extremely antiquated view of wood combustion.
We're at New Farm in South Warnborough, and we chip all our roundwood from that site either into Slough stock or into our own stock. You know, we've got two 35 megawatt CHPs, so combined heat and power, and they work very well. You know, we're putting 300,000 tonnes of wood chip through both of those boilers each year. In that scale, it works well, producing electricity and heat. But in the smaller scale, really, wood chip is, you know, is for energy, is for heat only, really. What we're doing is sustainable. We are only felling a crop that was planted originally for a commercial use. We're not going in hacking down trees just because we want to produce biomass. And I think as well as that, you know, once you've educated the landowners and the public that actually, you know, cutting down trees isn't bad. You know, it is good. You are respacing, you're doing silvicultural thinnings. You know, you are regenerating different habitats.
We're the largest manufacturer of wood pellets in the UK and Ireland. And then we commissioned this site here in Invergordon in 2010. This site would be the largest of its type in the UK. It does about 100,000 tonnes of pellets a year. On site every day, because we actually generate electricity from wood chip and use that electricity and heat in the production of the pellets, as well as for, you know, to actually export the electricity, we will use about 1,000 tonnes of wood fibre a day between fuel and the pellet raw material. The reason we're in northern Scotland is that's where the trees are. There's a lot of trees in the area. There's also a number of wood mills, you know, in the locality, which we would have a lot of residual material. Whenever you mill a tree, around about 50% of it is residual or waste product, either in terms of wood chip or sawdust. We can actually use those, and we'll take the products from other wood mills in here. heat and electricity is generated on site using, we have a 34 megawatt thermal boiler where basically it's using wood chip to actually fuel that. We then pass it through a CHP unit which generates heat and electricity. So we're exporting electricity to the grid plus using it on site. So the entire process is green. The pellets, the basic fuel for the material that goes into the pellets would be the whiter product in terms of the centre of the wood rather than the dark bark, which tends to be a higher moisture content. We take that, we grind it down. It then goes onto a belt dryer. We pass heat through it. It actually reduces the moisture content down from maybe 40 to 60% down to 10 to 12%. That's then ground again and it goes into a pellet mill which compresses that sawdust and small chip under pressure, under heat to form the actual pellet in the end.
We're at South Bristol Skills Academy. South Bristol Skills Academy was a new build project built within the last 5 years, and because of Bristol City's both desire to have renewables within the city, within council-owned buildings, and also because it's a new build project and therefore had carbon emissions reduction targets, they incorporated a biomass boiler as the primary source of hot water and central heating. They built a new energy centre, and there they have a biomass boiler housed in the new energy centre, and immediately adjacent to that they have 2 hook bins as the delivery and storage method. There are a range of different delivery methods. I suppose the perfect ideal method is a hole in the ground in which you tip into. The advantage of that simple hole in the ground concept is it's both a quick delivery method and it doesn't use a specialist delivery vehicle and therefore doesn't have higher delivery costs. But nevertheless, because of different site constraints and parameters and cost constraints for different sites, there are a range of other different suitable delivery methods. So we may go for hook bins, and that's where we use a specialist vehicle deliverer, essentially a cartridge mechanism. So you may have 2 hook bins on site. They may be both full initially. When one becomes empty, the system automatically switches over to draw fuel from the other one, and also notifies us that the first bin is empty, and we would then bring a new full bin along, take the empty bin away and insert the next one.
My name is Mark Thomas and I work for a company called Woodfuel Testing. We're an independent testing laboratory for wood fuel. We're looking at wood fuel for measuring 2 basic parameters that are important in wood fuel. One of them is the moisture content that affects the energy value, and the second one is in terms of particle size distribution for wood chip.
My name's Kate and I work for Woodfuel Testing, and I am here to test wood fuel to make sure it hits the standards. For particle size, we put them in the sieve shaker. It's a stainless steel sieve with round punched holes, different diameters. The problem with square holed sieves is that the diagonal length of the holes is greater, so you will get larger particle sizes falling through the square holes than you would in a round hole sieve. So 15 minutes oscillating movements, and then weigh each sieve and find the percentage of the sample within that sieve.
One of the things is to make sure that the fuel is made and manufactured to a standard. We use a sieve shaker and a set of sieves to determine the particle size distribution and whether that meets the standard as well. 75% of the mass needs to be between a lower and upper limit. So we need to ensure that when we're making fuel that we don't make an oversized piece and that we keep it within the standards. The most fundamental thing about the calorific value of fuel is the moisture content. So at 0% moisture, the calorific value is somewhere around 5.2 megawatt hours per tonne. And when it's green, when it's felled, typical moisture content could be as much as 60-65%. And the calorific value will be less than sort of like 2 megawatt hours per tonne.
For moisture content, we either do the oven dry test in an oven which is to the EN standards, or we can use this moisture analyzer here, which takes just a few grams of sample, heats it up and gives the same result but in a few minutes. It's got a little heating element at the top here, so when you close the lid, it covers the sample, heats it up to, this is set at 140 degrees at the moment, heats it up for around about 5 minutes, as long as the moisture content's not too high, and after that it will weigh it both before and after and give you the percentage.
Constructive Renewables is a renewable energy installation company that takes an holistic approach to energy reduction for clients, be it domestic or commercial. It is a complete turnkey package that we offer. A lot of clients have never seen these products before. Biomass is a relatively new product to the UK, so we want to, in essence, hold people's hands and show them how it works and provide a full installation from design to commissioning to handover and maintenance from there on. For one of our clients, a hotel chain down south, we're actually doing quite a number of installations for them. We're going to be building the biomass cabins in Oldham. We'll be taking out their existing gas system, and they're looking to take full advantage and heat their hot water and space heating from the biomass boiler that we will be installing. We do invite clients to site as well, to Oldham, if we happen to be building biomass cabins at the time, just so they can see it really. It's a tangible asset that a lot of people haven't seen yet. It's stepping into the unknown, is what biomass is initially, that there is so much. It's so much different to any other type of technology that's been done many, many times before, such as gas or oil boilers as such. So finding the right installers is difficult. There are not many people that have done this type of installation yet, or even designed this type of installation. It's making a customer aware of what it is it going to do for them, what does it look like, what does it feel like, what is it like to see one in the flesh. All these aspects are key to helping people understand and feel comfortable with a biomass system. The key reason that they've looked to go for this is the investment potential of the system. The renewable heat incentive that the government has in place for the next 20 years for anybody taking a boiler now is very attractive. It's providing a return on investment in the region of 15 to 20% in year one, and that's inflation linked as well.
We tend to specialise in healthcare buildings, dementia care and nursing homes. They're usually met with the provision of gas-fired boilers and direct gas-fired water heaters for the high water demand. I don't think clients are fully aware of the availability of wood fuel boilers. I think for us the problems would be the additional cost to the client for the boiler installation. I think the way wood fuel is going to come to the fore, or renewable energies in general, is through legislation. I mean, there is a drive towards higher codes for sustainable homes, and ultimately towards zero carbon homes. But I don't think developers or clients are going to do it unless they are forced to by legislation.
I'm David Barber. I was a farmer. These days I call myself a diversified farmer, as we've sold off most of the land and the remaining 70 acres we've planted up almost entirely with trees now. One of the attractions, of course, is that we could grow our own fuel, but we're now finding we're producing more than we need for our own consumption. But talking to a wood fuel supplier, they said, well, you don't want to use hardwood for wood chip. Softwood is much cheaper and much easier. Sell your hardwood for firewood. So that, of course, perked up my ears and made me think about selling firewood. We had quite a heating demand for the house and outbuildings. I installed an old Scanfield boiler which you could burn big logs on, but it wasn't at all efficient, and we scrapped that when we built the holiday cottages and put in a high efficiency oil burner. But in the last 10 years or so I've been seriously looking at installing a wood chip boiler to heat the whole complex. The longer I've looked at it, the less comfortable I felt about installing a wood chip boiler. I think it's got to be on a very big scale. The whole capital cost really was beginning to put it out of the question, especially as I need to borrow money to do it. I've kind of gone off that idea, but I've now got very excited, particularly with the renewable heat incentive of installing a wood pellet boiler, and we'll almost certainly go ahead with that.
The farm, it's a 200-acre farm. We originally bred red deer here for their venison meat, but that proved uneconomic, so we've switched to cattle now. We have a livery stable, but we also have 80 acres of woodland, and we're harvesting that for feeding into a wood-burning boiler. The weakest point in the system is really the wood chip jamming in the auger, which draws it up into the boiler. And looking at the cost, there was obvious cost benefit. It was kind of an easy decision because of the presence of wood on the farm and because of the need to replace the heating systems and to replace it with something more efficient than oil. So it was kind of a no-brainer. It's a commitment, I guess, and it's perhaps easier to go on paying the bills to your gas or oil utility company, but we need to get people to get over that initial commitment, to make that initial commitment and follow through, because the benefits are there to be had.
Berkeley House is a nursing home that's been in existence since my grandparents started it in the 1920s. I'm Simon Wally, I'm chairman of the Berkeley House Group. We have a small estate here. We have always been interested in managing the estate, both for sort of environment and wildlife and so on. We realised that the cost of gas was going up. We experimented and came up with some designs for a Woodfuel system. We reckoned at the time that we would take about 6 years to get a payback. We knew that we would never have enough woodland, with only 48 acres altogether and only half that's woodland, to produce enough wood chip to meet the very substantial needs that a building on this size requires. So we were always going to have to buy in wood chip as well, but we buy it locally. It's all locally sourced from sustainable woodlands. We have continued to use some of our own woodland, and we take what's they called a coop, a particular area each year, and either coppice it or clear an area if there's some intrusive trees and things like that. In terms of the quality of wood, again, there was a learning curve at the beginning. We found that we had to make sure that the wood chip was clean and didn't have any odd bits of metal and things like that in it. It's a system that enables us to save money. Obviously, there's a cost saving. Secondly, there's clear advantages in committing to community benefit. And from our point of view, there's the incentive to manage woodlands.
We've got the house behind you. We've got a barn here which we use for staff meetings, events, things like that. It's a big sort of high vaulted barn. And then we've got a timber framed office which we recently extended, so we've got a double sized office, and then we've got another small office next to it. So in effect 5 buildings. We're all heated from one chip fired boiler. We get a lot of waste wood, we get pallets, we get crates. We store all those up along with fence panels and extraneous bits of wood that appear, pile them up into a big heap. Every 6 months we get in one of those enormous, huge, back of an Arctic shredders, but it shreds it all into a big heap, which then keeps us going for the next 6 months. We had an oil boiler in the house, we had an oil boiler in the office, and then in the new office we would have had an oil boiler. Equivalently, we probably would now be using about 8 grand's worth of oil per year between the 4 buildings. And we're currently, if you've taken the cost of the chipper hire for the day, it's about 6 grand, I reckon. So we're saving about 2 grand by using wood chips over the oil. So, you know, it's the right thing to do from that point of view.
We're at Stoneham Green, which is a development we built last year of 11 Code 6 family homes. It's just on the outskirts of Southampton. It's on the site of some former disused allotments. Well, we've got 11 houses here. They're all fired by 2 communal boilers which burn wood pellets. Both operate in tandem. They provide all the heating and all the hot water to all of the houses here.
Code 6 is very difficult to achieve, and this is one of the few Code 6 developments in the country. One of the first things we've also done here is also obviously have the wood pellet boilers, which is the first time Radiant have done that. I think there was a great deal of reluctance when we first proposed it because it didn't have the greatest of reputations in the industry. So what we've tried to do is make sure that we've got pellet rather than chip, because the feedback we got from everybody was that was a more efficient way to conduct things. We also made sure that we used an established manufacturer in terms of the boilers. I mean, obviously for us as a housing association, the major thing's reliability. What we were really worried about was a little bit of a leap of faith for Radiant, really, to put in wood pellet as the main sort of source of heat and source of hot water. So what we wanted to do is obviously make sure that we had a system that was reliable, have a system that was cost effective, and also have a system that the residents had some trust in. We'd certainly go for pellet because we think that's a more reliable fuel. There is still a bit of a reluctance from certain people within the housing association world in regards to wood pellets, but it's becoming more and more well known. There's more and more people using it, there's more and more people having a bit more confidence in it, and I think the industry's in a better state than it was perhaps 5 years ago.